Hello, welcome to No Veto Video. I'm Catherine.
And I'm Carson. And this week, we're going to tell you all about our experiences watching Ghost Team from 2016. Ghost Team is directed by Oliver Irving and stars Jon Heder, David Krumholtz, Justin Long, and Amy Sedaris.
Ghost Team is a group of people who are preparing to submit an audition video for a Finding Ghosts reality TV show. So in order to do that, they have an adventure at what they feel is an abandoned farm.
I picked this movie because I was given it free from Google Play for some promotional thing last year or the year before, and I figured I should probably watch it. I had expected it to be sort of antics-laden film about, a group of misfits trying to solve ghost things, similar to an adult version of Monster Squad. This was not really what I was expecting. It was antics-filled. It was also slapsticky.
So much better than that.
But it went in a not completely different direction, but it felt like, I don't know, if the Scooby-Doo team were incompetent and actually believed there may be ghosts. I heard you making a comment while I was giving the plot synopsis about it being so much better. Would you like to elaborate?
So for me, I think one of the... Like, if it had just been a straight, here we are, we're a team of people who solve ghost issues, okay. I'm down for that, too. In fact, I get really upset with movies when solving ghost issues doesn't work. But this turned out to be a failure of coming-of-age story, in some ways, but also in other ways, a coming-of-age story. And the fact that I, as an audience member, was so far ahead of the characters, and it was, sometimes it's obnoxious in a film, but in this film it was a lot of fun watching them misunderstand because of their sort of failure to launch. If they were grown-up people, the characters, they would have been able to interpret the signs around them in the way that we were doing, which would be in a different way than they were interpreting them. And so watching the ways in which reality and the characters' experience of reality were not meshing was good. Also, I didn't know that David Krumholtz was in this when you first introduced the idea, and I am just there for whatever David Krumholtz wants to do.
You mentioned coming-of-age story. This is different than many coming-of-age stories, as these people are all in their late 20s, early 30s, or in maybe some cases older than that. These people should have come of age long before. Right,
but yeah, as somebody who, myself, in my late 20s and early 30s, was still trying to get a big girl job, that I feel that. I feel like, I remember in that period that there was this parody of Fun's song Young, or We Are Young, or whatever, called We're Not Young, and it just wrecked me. Because there was so many ways in which, just things didn't work out for a whole lot of people our age, and maybe it was unrealistic expectation, but it's also a little bit of a lot of us didn't end up working in fields that we were trained for, and a lot of us didn't end up with the sort of having followed all the right steps, the career and sort of life that we were set up to expect just never arrived. Again, it may have been unrealistic expectations, and as much as we beg for comments, I'm not actually asking for comments telling you about how worthless Gen Xers and generations that have followed are. Y'all can keep that one to yourselves.
So, going back to what I was talking about with Scooby-Doo earlier, there was actually a crime to solve.
As it turns out.
With people kind of impersonating ghosts, although unintentionally.
Not really.
I was getting to that. I said unintentionally.
Okay.
If you're a true believer, they could have been construed as interpreting ghost. I mean, obviously we had a couple of true believers in this cast, and the characters.
In the characters, yeah, clearly.
And they were looking for ghosts anywhere they could find them.
Yeah.
There were also characters who were just in it for money, which were sadly disappointed because they weren't ever actually offered money. So there was a wide variety of reasons to be doing this. Ego trip.
Yeah. So in all the performances, were there ones that stood out for you?
Oh, the security guard. I can't remember his character's name.
Ross.
Ross was over the top at the beginning. I was like, oh, I don't want to see this. This is just going to get old really quick. But actually started playing that character well in the scenes, and was about the right level of slapstick.
For me, I think Amy Sedaris turned in an excellent performance, and I don't know how much of it. So her character at one point is like, well, it's good because we're going to get paid for this, and then it's like, maybe it's not worth whatever remuneration is going to come at the end of this. I mean, I don't know if perhaps she was just, letting out feelings that she was having, but she seemed to be having fun with this, and she gets a really standout moment wherein she is saying essentially nothing, but with great purpose and great feeling, even though her character knows she's not saying anything. And so there's this, it's a layered performance right near the end of the film, and it's clear that this character has used this technique before, but maybe not nearly so successfully as she did this time, but just it was a fun moment and made me laugh probably as hard as I did at any other point in the film. And then, as I mentioned, David Krumholtz, his character here is stuck in time, not even sure he wants to be here anymore, and that's played for fun effect at certain points in the film, and yet he's never like an empty presence, even as so I think there's some heart there.
Yeah, the acting in general was really good, and the directing and writing for the characters. No character felt extraneous or like they didn't fit with the overall plot or with the other characters. So, yeah, props to that.
I was thinking about, there's one particular montage piece early on in the film, and I think you were not enjoying it. You were making, because it was a lot of sort of jumpy cuts.
Oh, yeah.
As it just sort of demonstrated how dead end this guy's life is. It, like, his Monday through Friday are absolutely interchangeable with all the other. And he works at a copy shop, like a thing that honestly I am constantly surprised continues to exist in our world, but there you go. And he's making copies for people of missing pet posters. It never really gets followed up, but like every day, each new day, a new missing pet, basically. And it's not like some kind of It scenario, but but there's this sort of sense of lostness that I thought was really nicely communicated through that montage sequence.
You raised something that I have problems with in a lot of movies. a lot of movies, I feel the setup is slow and could just jump directly into the movie and we can gather the characters' backstories from how they're acting or from dialogue that slipped in. This one, though, I think did it better than many of the movies that I do have complaints on. They didn't spend too much time on it. Some of it felt just a little, maybe a bit too long. Some of the characters I would have liked to have seen more backstory on, like Amy Sedaris, how her character got into that situation. It's clear that her character does not really believe in much of this, and it's just a job. She goes to work, she pays her bills, she goes to work, she pays her bills, she goes to work, and just monotonous, and she doesn't really enjoy it, but doesn't actually believe in any of this. Which actually leads to a good question. So you said that a lot of these people should have seen what was going on. Why do you feel she didn't?
I think she didn't.
Just not paying attention because she didn't care?
I don't think she was where some of the places where one should have seen that was. I think there were points at which she was sort of interested in just communicating. Like she's talking to somebody about why they're there.
Yeah.
At one point. At the point that she is cued into there being danger in their situation, I still don't think she thinks it's supernatural danger. But once you're in a dangerous situation, you're in a dangerous situation. So
yeah.
No, I don't think she was ever sort of.
And that was, I'm sure, by design.
Right.
Because otherwise we would be able to justifiably have a complaint. Why didn't she point it out?
Right. Yeah, no, actually, it's a very nicely constructed film.
Yeah.
At points reminding me of Agatha Christie's And There Were None, and then, at other points sort of just being a fun sort of haunted house romp. But never, it never did a scary thing that, it scared the characters.
Yeah.
But for the audience who have this remove, it was never. Sometimes even when we travel, y'all are going to get to know a little bit more about Catherine and Carson. When we travel, when we go to hotels, we often try and find a ghost hunting reality TV show to watch on television. It's the only time we do it. It's when we were, far from home. And I call them many names. But we have that same kind of remove, I think, as the audience of those reality TV shows. Wherein, Catherine's saying, no, not a demon, just get that man to psychological help, or no, that looks like a headlamp from someone else, from a car that's passing by. That's not an orb, or that there's this sort of way in which, as an audience member of those television shows, I was kind of being as the audience member of this movie, and so clearly they've watched a lot of those shows because some of the beats were just absolutely the same. Mm-hmm. Stop, those kinds of things. And that was a lot of fun.
You were mentioning not being scared by anything as an audience member. Even Mimesis,
I'm a chicken.
Even Mimesis, which we reviewed a few episodes back, had a couple of jump scares in it, even though the audience knows there's nothing supernatural, or in that case, no zombies.
That was such a sloppy movie. Y'all go back and watch that episode about how much I didn't enjoy that film.
But even that, there were jump scares in it, even though the audience
I think there were things that were designed to be jump scares here, and that were surprising. Like somebody should have been here, and then they weren't.
Yeah.
Or suddenly, somebody that we weren't expecting to pop into frame pops into frame. But it highlighted for me just how much we as humans are capable of scaring ourselves. Like, I'm thinking of some of the scenes in the communication shack.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so there were jump scares there, but they were mostly, like, it was right in the moment of, like, oh, ha 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 ha. Aren't we funny? Aren't we capable of scaring ourselves?
Yeah. But I don't think they were actually intended to scare the audience.
Startled.
Maybe.
I mean, I was startled.
Okay.
But not scared. Yeah.
So are you saying they did work, but they were going for something else, or that they did not work?
I think they worked.
Okay.
I think this was a very successful film, all the way around.
So do you have any final thoughts?
I think for me, this is one of those, this is a fun movie, and a fun movie to watch, but probably not to revisit.
Yeah.
And, not a great film, like, not great art.
Yeah.
But it highlights for me, as we respond to lots of different kinds of movies in this project and in our lives in general, that sometimes you just, like, we don't need every movie to be great art. We would like every movie to be successful.
Yes.
And that those two are different values in this. And this was fine. This was a great movie. I don't, no complaints. But does it merit a lot of deep digging into? Does it have a lot of themes? No. It's mostly like what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
How about for you? Last thoughts?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, this is not what I was expecting going into it, but I ended up enjoying the movie. It felt a little like it's parodying the genre, but not anywhere near as much as, like, Cabin in the Woods, for instance. But yeah, that's something we hadn't covered. It does seem to be playing on tropes without...
I think it's ultimately interested in telling a different story.
Yeah.
It's much more interested in this sort of, how much do we choose to participate and not participate in reality kind of story. Yeah. So, yeah, I think, while telling this other tale.
Yeah.
Yeah. I trampled on your last thought.
Oh.
Sorry.
Parody without doing exactly the same. Pointing out how these things are used in the genre without telling the same story that everyone else is telling. Scream would have been an example of the latter, where they're using the same story, basically.
Right, yeah. Okay, so that concludes our thoughts about Ghost Team. We are interested in hearing your thoughts about the movie, or, I guess, generational commentary. But let us know down below, or come and find us at novitovideo.com. We look forward to interacting with you guys about that, and continuing the conversation in general. So you can comment on past episodes as well, and or watch them, and do all those things.
So every week on No Veto Video, we have this thing called Override, where we override the No Veto, and explain...
Just go with it.
You just go with it. It's fitting the naming theme, where we discuss, or where we tell you about other movies very briefly, that if you liked this one, you would also like, or if you hated this one, maybe that would have been a better choice for you. So, besides all the movies we've mentioned already, like Monster Squad or Mimesis, I would recommend Paranormal Activity, if you don't mind B movies, or really any of the parodies of Paranormal Activity. It's slapsticky while, investigating ghosts and demon possession. So it takes more of a paranormal slant, and definitely a much lower brow comedy slant than this, but it's kind of got the same feeling.
And so I'm going to go in a direction sort of a slacker film that uses a horror trope, to sort of tell its story. And so my override this week is Shaun of the Dead, which is also an incredibly successful movie, not just commercially, but in terms of what the story it wants to tell about slackers in England who find themselves in the midst of a zombie apocalypse. So check out Shaun of the Dead, check out Paranormal Activity, and that series of films. Is that like Scary Movie? Is it the same people?
No, I don't think it's the same people as Scary Movie.
Different people than Scary Movie.
That's hard to say because Scary Movie had different directors throughout.
All right. So next time on No Veto Video, we will be responding to the film Atomic Blonde, which is currently available to rent on the places where one can rent videos. We're going to be watching it from DVD borrowed from Carson's father, which we lovingly call Benny Buster's. So, since
the official video store with Buster in its name is no longer in existence.
There you go. All right. So
until next time, thanks for watching. I'm Carson.
I'm Catherine. Thank you, and subscribe.